I apologize for short notice. My 30-minute speech is going to be cut down to just a matter of seconds. I'm thankful, but like I said, I just like to welcome everyone, guests. What a great cause. I actually had to do a little homework on this just a few minutes ago, and I did not know exactly until I got the phone call this morning what this was about. And after reading on it, it's a great cause. Appreciate y'all coming to Ward County, Tennessee. Enjoy your visit and your meal. And now I'm going to turn this over to Mike for a prayer. But just thank y'all for coming.
Amen.
Real free. I used to try to run like y'all were doing. And I run 10Ks, and I met a man who runs marathons. He tried to get me to run marathons. Anyway, he said, just add a mile, add a mile, add a mile. I got up to 9 miles one day. I said, if I get back to the car, I'm never going again. About 20 years ago, and I don't think I ever have. So I thank y'all for your effort, taking the time, and I'll do that. And the behind the scenes people too that are present. Dear Most High and Holy Heavenly Father, we thank you, Heavenly Father, for all that you're doing for us. Lord, we thank you for placing us in this great nation where we can live free. Heavenly Father, whenever we speak to those that give our life to set us free, we must always first and foremost remember our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who went willingly to the cross to set us free from bondage to sin. But Lord, we thank you especially for those men and women that gave their lives and who sacrificed, took time away from home to make this a free nation. We ask your blessing upon those who have served to protect that freedom ever since, and who are doing so even as we speak. Lord, we ask that you protect them and bring them home safe. Dear Heavenly Father, that's not what this is about. This is the honor of men and women who selflessly gave their lives for that freedom. We gave their lives for their fellow men and women who was in the trenches with them, in the jungle with them, on the shore with them, in the sea. And Father, we thank you for their sacrifice. We thank you for their families' sacrifice. Lord, we ask that you continue to comfort their families. And Father, we just ask that you especially bless these people that's taking the time to run and to support the runners in memory of this. We keep them safe this far on their journey. We ask that you carry them safely to the conclusion of it. Thank you, Lord, for the people that organized this. We thank you, Lord, for the abundant feast that's about to be partaken here. Ask your blessing upon it, that it be used in service of our bodies and our bodies to your continued service. Heavenly Father, we can thank you for the rest of the night, Lord. It will be sadly insufficient. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Amen.
Amen.
If you'll stand and join me for the national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight
try to get it. I don't think I want it sitting in water though. I'll put it right here. Just turn it on. Hey everybody. Thank you for the welcome to Lynchburg. We have a Lynchburg, I'm from Virginia actually, we do have a Lynchburg in Virginia. I actually lived near there for quite a while, but thank you, Mayor, for your hospitality, and what an amazing place. You know, just driving, you know, into this town was just, I don't know, just such a warm feeling. And the opportunity to come in, and my biggest worry was parking 2 large RVs, you know, out there in a square someplace and trying to figure out, okay guys, let's not get in anybody's way and you know, be able to come in here. But how many of those here are actually from the town? Okay, awesome. Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for coming out and being a part of this. As Mayor said, he might not have known this morning what this was all about. This is kind of an opportunity to share with you what we're doing and the importance of why we're doing it. And I'll try to be as brief as I can to really get that message across. But what is it all about? It's about remembrance, isn't it? I mean, it's about making sure that these men and women who gave everything for our country are not forgotten. And how do you do that? I mean, we all do that in our own different ways. And some of us may remember quietly, you know, in our hearts. Some of us may go visit gravestones. Some of us may even know families. But we all do things differently. Our nation, however, is kind of mixed. You know, I think that what we have found as our core group has been traveling is that as we've gone through small towns, they have been more patriotic than most. But the collection of people in those towns are small in number, and compared to the huge cities we go through, where people are going around their business and really don't care. I mean, they just don't think about it. And, you know, that's really sad. 10 years ago, we formed an organization called Honor and Remember. That organization was formed to bring national remembrance to the nation, to everybody who doesn't get it. Not to the choir. I always call the choir the active duty military, the veterans, the families that are connected to those veterans and active duty military. Those are the choir, they get it. They don't need to be reminded, right, that men and women are serving and losing their lives because they're already they have skin in the game, right? But that's only collectively, and I say this kind of with using the evangelistic numbers, it's probably only 10% of this country. There's 90% of the country that doesn't get it, that doesn't understand it. That's okay from one standpoint, because those that enlist and serve are not doing it so that everybody understands. They're doing it so that we can live in a free country. And their families are protected, and their friends are protected. And so they don't think about that 90+%. Yet that 90+% don't think about them at all. And so we thought, hey, if we could bring public remembrance to this nation in some great way, maybe we could raise the bar a little bit and get everybody to think about it. I'll give you an example. On 9/11, one of the most tragic events happened in our country. We all understand that, right? We know where we were. We can, you know, talk about it. On 9/12, you couldn't find an American flag to buy in this country. Couldn't find an American flag to buy because everybody had wiped out the supply of American flags. Because why? We wanted to stand in unity for a tragedy that happened on our soil. And that was important. And it's sad, this is kind of a rabbit trail, but it's sad to think that we have to have a terrible, terrible tragedy in this country to make that happen. So you couldn't find an American flag. And the manufacturers of American flags couldn't buy fabric fast enough to make American flags. So a lot of people were angry. They couldn't get flags. I mean, people were selling them on the street corners. I don't know if that was happening here, but they were selling them on the street corners in huge bundles. But 3 months later, those flags were faded. And 6 months later, those flags were tattered. And 12 months later, those flags were gone. The only flags that were up were the flags that were up on 9/10. The people that stood and believed in the patriotism of this country and were flying flags for those reasons. And so as a nation, we have very short memories. We just want to get on about our business. If it doesn't affect us, let's move on. And so when tragedy hit my life in 2005, I mean, there was a huge outpouring of enlistments right after 9/11. I mean, it was just many of those here whose loved ones were lost maybe went in after 9/11. You know, my son went in in 2003. And after his death, I just wanted to embrace something that told me that America cared, that somehow that loss wasn't in vain. And I went on this search to find out, okay, what do we do as Americans to remember? Because I didn't think much about it before when he was just serving. I was just proud of him. But, you know, after the unthinkable happened, I wanted to know, I looked outward and looking for a way of healing, you know, and things that would, you know, help comfort me. And I didn't find a lot of things, not from the general public. Because I think we like to focus on the here and now. We like to focus on the veterans, which we should. We like to focus on the active duty, which we should. But there's a whole people group out there who have raised and given their loved ones so that others didn't have to, that are completely forgotten. I mean, literally completely forgotten. Because unless a hometown hero dies and everyone rallies around that for a time, remember I say we have short memories, the name of that loved one is remembered for a while, but then the family is still here. And the family goes on grieving the rest of their lives. And so the importance of them knowing that America cares in some small, even small way is so, so important. Because they can't have their loved one back. So the one thing that they hold on to is that somebody remembers. The families don't need the reminder because they will never forget. You know, we wear it around our necks, on our shirts, or whatever it may be. We never forget. And isn't it funny that, why do we do that, you know, as Gold Star families? We don't do it because we need to know that what our kid looks like because we have his picture on our shirt, right? It's for others to see that and go, oh, who is that? Is that somebody that you know? Is that a family member? I mean, literally, Gold Star families, and you know, correct me afterwards if you think I'm wrong, are crying for remembrance. Not of themselves, but for others. And so 10 years ago, we formed an organization called Honor and Remember. Honor and Remember. Why? Because we thought it was important to give the nation a way to tangibly say thank you to the families. Because there really was no other way. Remember I said I did all this searching to find out how we remember as a nation. I couldn't find anything. So I thought the best way of doing that was to create a symbol which became the Honor and Remember flag, and then try to get it flying all over this nation so that every family who saw it would have an instant connection and go, oh, That's for me. Somebody who's flying that on a flagpole gets it. They understand loss, and they're saying thank you. And that was the whole purpose of the flag's creation, was to leave a gift, a legacy of remembrance and appreciation for every Gold Star family in America, regardless of generation and regardless of cause of death. While serving or as a result of serving. And I meant to say that first, Mayor. If everyone would silence their cell phones. So as an organization who's trying to bring national remembrance to our country, what better way, not just generically, but to call the names out loud of every service member that we could compile in this, one of the greatest organized fallen veteran tribute in this nation, in the history of this nation, I believe. And so what we did was we took all of the names that we could find from October the 12th, 2000, from the bombing of the USS Cole, which kind of started, for the most part, what we believe is the War on Terror. Of course, a year later, it went into overdrive. And we gathered every name we could find, working with the Department of Defense and a lot of other organizations, and put together a list 2 years ago that brought us close to 20,000 individuals. Now, I use the term while serving or as a result of serving, because it didn't matter how they died. Whether they were in theater, whether they were at home in training, whether they died in a car accident, whether they died by health-related issues, or even if they succumbed to the hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress after they served. So anyone who died while serving or as a result of serving were compiled into our database. And then we took that database and we divided everyone by their dates of death. So we had nearly 20,000 names, which we've been adding to almost every day, unfortunately. And we looked at their date of deaths, and that date of deaths came to, and we've added miles, and I won't go into the details of that, about 6,100 miles. And then we plotted a 19-state journey over 5 months to run 6,100 miles. And every day is a unique and separate date of death. And we are recording it, but we're also broadcasting it live. How many of you have seen the live feed? Just a few of you. So runforthefallen.org is our website. Live feed, there's a link. You can watch us live doing this all day long. And so what we're doing is literally calling out the names of every fallen service member that we know of that has died in the last 18 years. It's unheard of. I believe we have the largest database of fallen service members in the world, of American fallen service members, even beyond any of our government agencies. Because what we've done is we have, on our website, allowed families who are not accounted for by the Department of Defense add their heroes. And so we've just been adding and adding and adding. And why? Because every single one of these men and women need to be remembered. Every single one. And so what do we do and how do we do that? We have a core team, we have a core staff, really, who is involved in supporting and running. And we get a lot of local runners most days. And we have in our hands, we're carrying 4 flags when we have enough runners. The United States flag, the state flag of the state that we're running in. We're carrying a flag that was created 3 years ago called Honor and Sacrifice, and that honors the fallen public safety, police, and fire, because they're out there protecting us. We want them to know that we're honoring their loved ones as well. We may not be calling their name out loud, but we're remembering their selfless sacrifice. And we're carrying the Honor and Remember flag, which I mentioned already, what that flag stands for. And as with that, those 4 flags, we're carrying placards that have the date of death that we're running for. Remember, we're running for consecutive dates of death, and a placard with the names of all those who died on that particular day. And we're carrying a set of flags for every name that is on that placard. So there's a lot going on, right? So we come to a set marker. Everyone comes to attention. We ask if there are any Gold Star families at that marker. Often there are. And then we begin to read that placard. This hero marker is dedicated to all military service members who lost their lives on this particular day, whatever that day that may be. And then we read those names one at a time, loudly and respectfully. And as they're reading those names, someone's planting those set of flags in the ground or touching them to the ground. Just depends on how hard the ground is. And once that's done, we stand back with our hands over our heart, do a hand salute, whether you're military or civilian, in honor of all of those names that we've just ran for. And then we pick up the placard for the next dates of death and the set of flags for each name that we need to account for, and off we go to another marker. And that is done consistently and respectfully. Every 10 minutes, we're stopping and honoring another set of service members. Every 10 minutes for 8 to 10 hours a day. Every day. This was our 91st day of running. And we have collectively run 4,143 miles. And we have named out loud 16,680 service members in the last 91 days. And remember, every mile is a date of death. So that 4,100 are unique dates of death. That's how many dates of death we have had since October 12, 2000. Today, we ran 50 dates of death. 50 dates of death for 121 service members just today. So the importance of what we're doing as an organization and as a community is making sure that these men and women are not forgotten. And what is the best way of remembering them? By speaking their names out loud for all of the world to hear, every mile of every day, all day long. And you would believe that this would be the most important news story in America, wouldn't you? You would think that this has got to be important. And I will tell you that we have not had one national news story since we started 3 months ago. 3 months ago, we've been doing this every day consistently, and not one national story. I'm befuddled, but that's okay, because our mission is to make sure that they are all called out. We will end in Arlington Cemetery on August the 5th for a 2 o'clock ceremony, of which you are all invited. Arlington National Cemetery will be one of the most profound endings to an event that I think we will ever see. One of the things we like to do at the end of every evening, and it doesn't matter if we're completely alone as a team, and we haven't been for quite a while now, which I'm very, very grateful for. But there have been really lonely days at the end where it was just our team in a parking lot with nobody else around. Nobody even knew we came into the city. And that was a shame. But ever since we hit the Midwest, we have had community support, and it's been just amazing. And we're so appreciative. But one of the things that we do every night is we reread the names of all those that we ran for that day. And that's very important to us, because of those who might have been watching the live feed, you might not have heard all the names, because it's very noisy on the highway. Very, very noisy. So we may stop to read a name as loud as we can, but then a tractor trailer will come by, or a dump truck will come by, or a tanker truck will come by, and those names are drowned out. And there's nothing we can do. We can't even anticipate those because we can't see them coming. We're focused on reading these names and having a ceremony. And so it's important that we hear those names again, and we hear them collectively in a quiet place, and we hear them in an environment of those who care and understand, and we say them to those who can stand for those families who aren't here. Because what are we doing? We're reading the names of loved ones. And those family members who are here know exactly what I'm talking about, because when we read your name, you're going to be waiting for that moment. You're going to be hearing for that name. And can you imagine every one of those names we're reading is someone just like you who would be waiting for that name to be heard. And you get to stand for those families, and you get to hear those names tonight. So we're going to read the 121 names over again. You don't have to stand. You may comfortably be seated. But I would ask that you listen reverently and listen as if they are your family's names. And when we're done, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say the name of a family member who may not have been called today. Because remember, we're reading for the names that encompass a certain date range, 50 dates of death that we read for today. Thank you.
The dates we ran for today were October 7th through November 30th of 2012. Petty Officer Second Class Petty Officer Second Class Russell Todd Neff Jr., United States Navy. Major Christopher Alexander Wren, United States Army. Specialist Brittany Diana Gilstead, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Robert J. Murphy, United States Air Force. Specialist Travis Keith Gilliland, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Scott Wilson Burdan, United States Army. Major Garrett Wayne Nolan, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Stephen Caswell Freedy, United States Air Force. Private First Class Nathaniel James Huey, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Wayne Brown, United States Army. Sergeant Thomas R. McPherson, United States Army. Commander Joel Del Mundo II, United States Navy. Sergeant Robert J. Billings, United States Army. Specialist Brittany B. Gordon, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Ryan J. Savard, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 4, Clark Thomas Keeler, United States Army. Specialist Jesse Stevenson Arnold, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Justin Eric Strom, United States Army. Senior Master Sergeant Chad Jeffrey Hughes, United States Air Force. Private Wayne Brian Griffith, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Dorothy Jane Holland, United States Army. Captain Sean Gilbert Hogan, United States Army. Sergeant Ashley Devon Hunt, United States Marine Corps.
Private First Class Shane G. Wilson, United States Army. Specialist Timothy Lawrence Singletary, United States Army. Airman First Class Colby Graham Siegel, United States Air Force. Tech Sergeant Eugene Miller, Jr., United States Air Force. Corporal Ryan Wayne Scoville, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Third Class Michael Renee Proctor, United States Navy. Senior Chief Petty Officer Peter T. Goosens, United States Navy. Sergeant Christian Meisner Friedman, United States Army. Airman First Class Alexander Hill Morton, United States Air Force. Petty Officer First Class James Joseph Kelly, United States Navy. Chief Warrant Officer 2 Michael S. Duskin, United States Army. Sergeant Kieran Lee Mamo, United States Army. Private First Class Mark Philip Shetler, United States Army. Warrant Officer 1 Richard Dale Spencer, United States Army. Petty Officer Second Class Alonzo Gladden Jr., United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Saida Zambrano, United States Army. Sergeant Clinton K. Ruiz, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Kashif M. Memon, United States Army. First Lieutenant William Tyler Hicks, United States Army. Sergeant Ronald Quinnell Kemp, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Ricky James Wallace, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Stanley Thomas Masters, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Second Class Samuel Lewis Stiles, United States Navy. Private First Class Christopher Paul McJohnston, United States Army. Private First Class Corey Adam Parker, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Karen Gaventer Tackaberry, United States Army. Sergeant Kenneth D. Reich Jr., United States Marine Corps. Corporal Alex F. Dominion, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class Jermaine Marvin Sterling, United States Navy. Senior Airman Terrell Rydell Gray, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Second Class Matthew G. Cantor, United States Navy. Colonel Jerry Cashion, United States Army. Specialist Brett E. Gornowitz, United States Army. Master Sergeant Timmy Chris Telsey, United States Army. Sergeant Daniel Troxel, United States Army National Guard.
Staff Sergeant Dane T. Vinn, United States Army. Specialist Ryan P. Jane, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Otis Paston Starks III, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Christopher Daniel Howe, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Louis Carlos Avila, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Barry Lorenzo Walker, United States Army. Private First Class Brandon L. Buttry, United States Army. Major Vernon Bryant Jr., United States Air Force. Airman Michael Nathan Morrison, United States Navy. Sergeant Roger Wade Halford, United States Army. Specialist Jeremy Wayne Burchek, United States Army. Captain James D. Neal, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Diaz Hector Jesus Cruz, United States Army. Specialist Daniel L. Carson, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Hector Jesus Cruz, United States Army. Private First Class Joshua Baden Goolsby, United States Army. Chief Petty Officer William Lloyd Griffin, United States Navy. Seaman Filet Wally Sissoko, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Kenneth Wade Bennett, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Glenn Lowell, United States Army. Master Sergeant Raphael Almanzar, United States Army. Petty Officer 1 Marcus Timothy Smith, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Nathan Eric Thompson, United States Army. Sergeant Matthew H. Stiltz, United States Army. Private First Class Tyler Jonathan Lawson, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2 Melissa Annette Weaver, United States Army. Senior Airman Ryan Spencer Hartnett, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Rayvon Battle Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Major William Leo Lubbers, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Brandon Leonard Martin, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Stephen John Thompson, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Gary Lee Stouffer, Jr., United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Juan Mendoza Vargas, United States Army. Specialist Joseph A. Richardson, United States Army.
Sergeant Channing B. Hicks, United States Army. Tech Sergeant A.S. Neil Ali, United States Air Force. Senior Airman William James Hannigan III, United States Air Force. Sergeant Ryan Cole Meeks, United States Army. Sergeant Logan Tyler Harbison, United States Army. Corporal Jonathan Patrick Hatch, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Colonel David A. Lincoln, United States Air Force. Senior Master Sergeant Heidi Ann Kimsey, United States Air Force.
Lance Corporal Dale W. Means, United States Marine Corps. Chief Petty Officer Bruce Anthony Ambrose, United States Navy. Sergeant Corey Jamel Flowers, United States Army. Sergeant Nathan Adam Earls, United States Army National Guard. Specialist Zachary Shanafelt, United States Army. Specialist Christopher Blake Sainsbury, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Nathan Thomas Rickman, United States Army. Specialist Benjamin Todd Runquist, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Kevin R. Everett, United States Navy. Private Stennis Chakai Butler, Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Christopher Ryan Bedwell, United States Army. Specialist Samuel Bambaga Talu, United States Army.
Sergeant First Class Brian Keith Hayes, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Levi Robinson II, United States Army. Sergeant James Michael Sassoni, United States Army. Corporal Christopher M. Monahan Jr., United States Marine Corps. Fireman's Apprentice Jacob Kenneth Sportsman, United States Navy. Petty Officer 2 Lionel Tyson Vernon, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Jacob Edward Schlureth, United States Army. Staff Sergeant J. Matthew Fisher, United States Army. Sergeant Sean Monroe Dugan, United States Army. Senior Airman Matthew David Wade, United States Air Force.
Thank you. 121 heroes, over 50 dates of death. So I mentioned after we read our names, I like to give an opportunity to those who are with us, because when we run, although we're naming out loud those who died during the War on Terror, we're really running for them all. We're running for every fallen service member in the history of our country, because that's what the flag represents. And so when we're together as a community, I know that there are those here that have generations of loss. You may have lost a loved one or a friend or a neighbor in Vietnam, in Korea, sometime in between, World War II, it doesn't matter. If you would like to say the name out loud of someone who you know, now is an opportunity to do that. So I'm just not gonna take a lot of time, but I would ask for a show, you raise your hand and I'll call on you if you'd like to call out someone's name out loud. I won't take a lot of time for this. Don't be shy. I know someone just needs to start, because after someone starts. Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Jerry Don Lawrence, United States Army.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Captain Henry Lyman Thompson, U.S. Army.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Staff Sergeant Ryan E. Hout, United States Army.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Private Alonzo Ellis Sequay, United States Army.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Staff Sergeant Russell Frank Awalt, U.S. Army.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Specialist Ethan Edelman, Sergeant First Class Caleb Andrew Service, and Specialist Daniel Ewart.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, ladies.
Specialist Eric Scott Bivens.
Anyone else? we could just bow our heads for a moment of silence as we think about the names that we read and those that were spoken here tonight and the names that are still yet to come on our travel to Arlington. Amen. Ladies, if you want to bring up, one of the privileges we have is to remember individually. I said as an organization, this unique event that we've created is historic. We're not doing this again. So you're in a moment in time that is not going to be repeated. And calling these names out loud is all of us remembering individually by name. But one of the things that we're able to do on some nights, not every night, is to make a special presentation to a family who's been waiting for a special flag that anyone that holds their family can request, and that is the Honor and Remember flag that I mentioned that we carry. So it's more than just about carrying it generically for the nation, but it's about remembering every single life. So what I have here, I'm holding is a triangular folded Honor and Remember flag. It's hand sewn and embroidered. And it's folded like this because it mirrors the American flag that was taken off the casket, folded and handed to the family at the memorial of their loved one. But the American flag was to be encased in a shadow box and put aside as a gift from a grateful nation as a reminder of the loss. But the Honor and Remember flag is folded this way one time. And once it's open, it's meant to be a symbol of appreciation and a celebration of their life. And so I would like to ask the Hout family to come forward, please. You ready? You want to do that? Yep.
This Honor and Remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Staff Sergeant Ryan E. Hout. With this flag, we honor the patriots' unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you.
Moore County Mayor to go ahead and come down. Being state captain, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, if I'm being honest. And it was hard.
but it was a learning experience. I love doing it. And this county was just so awesome. And so we purchased the flag for this county to fly to remember our heroes, and in appreciation to everything that you did for us. It was great. Thank you.
The AWOL plan.
So Staff Sergeant Russell Awald is a local hero here, and we wanted to give the Awald family an honor to remember flag. And thank them for their sacrifice, and we appreciate it.
And lastly, I would like any Gold Star family to stand and be recognized. And no matter what it is, please stand, because everything that is important, I would like to be recognized. Well, thank you. Thank you for everyone that stayed, and now it's time to have some good Southern barbecue and some great cake too.
Thank you. We're done, everyone. Thanks for watching.